With Maki recently having her appearance in the Jujutsu Kaisen manga for the first time in a very long time, it's led people to question how strong she truly is in comparison to other very strong people such as Kashimo. And of course, in this video, I'll be going over this very topic with my friend Jada Satoru. If you don't know him, which I'm sure you do, go ahead and subscribe to his channel since he makes Jujutsu Kaisen content similar to mine, and of course subscribe to my channel if you aren't already subscribed. But without further ado, let's get into the video. Kashimo being one of the stronger people in the Culling Games arc, he has his main feats when it comes to his fight with the heavy hitter Hikari whenever he's in Jackpot. Hikari and Kashimo are pretty much around the same level, even if you want to say that one is above the other in terms of, a specific stat. It seems consistent that in terms of speed, they're just around the same level, even if Kashimo is able to get overcome by Hikari a few times, such as when Hikari is beginning to cave in, and then he just out of nowhere completely punches Kashimo through a bunch of trees. But even if we want to try to use this as a feat to say that Hikari is kind of out of Kashimo's league, it doesn't really make sense because right after this, Kashimo was able to react once again pretty quickly after.
In the first round of Hikari's Jackpot, there's actually two moments where one, he gets a cursed energy bonus, and obviously before when he doesn't have that cursed energy bonus. But even before he has the cursed energy bonus, not only is Kashimo still reacting to him and he's still reacting to him after, it's almost like it didn't really make that big of a difference when it came to Kashimo's ability to counteract Hikari. So before the cursed energy bonus, Kashimo is still reacting to a kick from Hikari, but even after, he's still able to react to that grapple and even get out of it right before Hikari slams down on the ground. So it's almost like the cursed energy bonus really didn't make that big of a difference when it came to Kashimo's ability to counteract Hikari. There's a moment later in the fight where Hikari just blatantly does begin to outspeed Kashimo and he lands numerous hits on him, and some people will say that this implies that Hikari's been holding back the entire time, but we actually have a much better interpretation about it.
So throughout the entire fight, there was one thing that was limiting Hikari in terms of, trying his hardest, which was Kashimo's sure hit effect, which is lightning. This effect is so dangerous even to someone like Hikari due to the fact that it can take off entire limbs, and it can be lethal if it hits you in the head. After Hikari deduces that he can't use this lightning strike multiple times in a short span, he begins to go hard and heavy and begins hitting with everything he has, completely destroying him, and it seems like Kashimo can't really keep up. So there are instances where it seems like if Hikari was trying his hardest, that Kashimo would be on the lower end, even if they are around the same level in speed.
From Hikari's perspective, it really makes all the more sense of why he wants to keep this distance from Kashimo. It's this technique with a sure hit effect, where he doesn't really even know how it works. It doesn't work on a level where you can see it through the eye, considering Kashimo's transferring charges to his opponents with every punch. It's this thing that caught Hikari off guard multiple times throughout the entire fight, and it proved itself to be lethal in those multiple times throughout the entire fight. So keeping his distance is really the better option for Hikari until he doesn't have to worry about it, which, just like Truth said, is when he can really pile on attacks onto Kashimo. Kashimo's cursed energy trait also gives him these electrifying punches, and their effect is really that you can't avoid them or really shield yourself from them because they do internal damage, just like Panda says. Hikari gets around them because he just has so much CE, which likely means that because he has so much reinforcement constantly running around his body, he can defend against them with ease and they don't really affect him, right? So you can make the argument that Maki, someone with a body of steel and a really strong physical body basically, she might have some resistance like Hikari, but just like Hikari, he's still prone to that big lightning strike, which is really the biggest problem that Kashimo's going to bring to the fight for Maki.
Now, against really anybody else, Kashimo's lightning would probably be lethal or fight ending because it can take off a limb, and fighting with one hand would leave you at a serious disadvantage against anyone. But against someone like Maki, she might actually be able to kind of take this attack. As we see, she's able to tank something that seems to be stronger lightning. Obviously, as we know, the lightning that Nue and Kashimo use is just lightning with cursed energy in it. So, more lightning should logically mean there's more cursed energy imbued into the attack. And Maki's able to completely tank an attack from Nue, even though it should be much stronger than what Kashimo has to offer.
Sukuna makes a comment when first seeing Maki that Nue's haphazard attack doesn't really seem to have damaged her at all, so it does seem to be this very formidable thing that even just taking it just a little bit, or even to the extent that Maki is taking it, is something that Sukuna considers you to be anything above just a small fry at that point. While maybe having a body of steel and taking Nue's lightning, she might be able to do a little bit better when it comes to taking the blast than Hikari did, for example. Her main problem is that regardless, I don't really see a world where it's not going to do any damage to Maki. The biggest problem is going to be that Maki doesn't have reverse curse technique, obviously, and her healing is extremely slow. It took her 5 minutes to heal from the damage that she took against Naoya, and the lightning could potentially be much worse than that.
In terms of overall fighting prowess, it seems that Maki, Hikari, and Yuta, who are known to be the heavy hitters by Kenjaku, are all around the same level. Even though it is stated in some translations that this group is led by Yuta Okotsu, Led by doesn't automatically mean that you're the strongest there, and I've even gone as far as to translating the statement myself and getting the actual kanji to where it's actually supposed to be translated as something along the lines more of including a Kotsu rather than led by. And Jaded has his own interpretation of this statement from Kenjaku that I'll let him go over now.
So Kenjaku makes it clear that he believes that when Sukuna ends up beating Satoru Gojo and Gojo's down, the Jujutsu high heavy hitters, which consist of Maki, Yuta, and Hikari, are all going to be the ones taking on Sukuna. For this to make sense, they would have to be somewhat around the same level of power. As we see throughout Jujutsu Kaisen, even if there's a bit of disparity, there can't be a large disparity between team members if they plan on fighting together. For example, obviously Gojo can't fight alongside anybody at Jujutsu High because he's just that much stronger than them. Then taking other instances like Maki and Yuji, where Maki has to make sure that Yuji can keep up to continue working together, it's just all the more consistent that they should be around the same level if Kenjaku thinks to himself that they're all going to jump in together to take down Sukuna as a team.
So there are really two possible outcomes for this fight in terms of base Maki versus base Kashimo, and in either outcome, the lightning strike from Kashimo is going to be a big deal to Maki. Not necessarily due to her durability, but due to the fact that she doesn't have high level RCT like someone like Yuta or Hikari. If Kashimo is able to land multiple hits on Maki in terms of hand-to-hand combat, she's going to be able to land multiple hits with the lightning strikes as well. And even if you do think that Maki could take, one or maybe even two of his lightning bolts, we don't see her taking many more. But if Kashimo isn't able to get these hits off and hit multiple lightning strikes, there's not really a way that he can beat Maki. The more probable of these two options is the idea that he probably won't be able to get these hits off, because unlike his fight with Hikari, Maki isn't a hand-to-hand fighter. They wouldn't be going blow for blow like he did with Hikari. Maki is a sword fighter, so there probably wouldn't be many openings for Kashimo to get multiple hits on her, and especially not enough to hit multiple lightning strikes on her, even if we're assuming that they're around the same level due to scaling to Hikari.
Just like Truth mentioned before, it's really going to come down to if Kashimo can land those hits to build up the lightning strike on Maki, because obviously, like Truth said, she doesn't have high level RCT and her healing is insanely slow like we saw in the Naoya fight. So even getting hit by 1 or 2 lightning bolts can mean the end of the fight. But would Kashimo be able to build up those strikes on a person wielding a sword? It's a little bit hard to say. Even if you don't believe that Maki or Kashimo scale to exactly where Hikari is, or Maki is maybe even a little bit stronger than Kashimo, even in the moments where Kashimo's still getting blitzed by Hikari and he's getting overpowered and he's really the one that's pushed towards the edge, Kashimo can still fire the lightning strike and make it off. So the real question isn't if he can activate it on a faster opponent, it's that if he can build up the strike to begin with. Because again, Maki has a sword, so it's going to be hard to have those hand-to-hand moments where he can transfer charges with each punch with somebody who's wielding a sword.
And this is not any normal sword. This also gives Maki the capability of one-shotting Kashimo potentially, because this is the Soul Split Katana. So not only does Maki have, a higher assertion in terms of how the battle will probably go, she also has the ability to completely destroy him with this sword. So it does seem like in terms of base to base, if Kashimo is not able to get these lightning strikes off, which it seems like he probably won't be able to, that she'll simply destroy him and delete him out of existence with this sword. One more thing that's also pretty interesting is that in the anime of Shibuya, there's also a feat of Toji reacting to lightning from Nue, which is pretty interesting because the anime is credited and watched by Gege, every week. So it's just something to think about. Now, a fight that I think is a little bit more interesting is Mythical Beast Amber Kashimo, which is his curse technique, versus Maki. In terms of his curse technique, he has multiple abilities, which I'll go over soon, but his main feats come from his fight with Sukuna, which is cut short by Sukuna himself. Beginning the fight, Kashimo is able to keep up with Meguna and even kind of overwhelm him, but you have to keep in mind that this Meguna does have a slowed down RCT output due to his fight with Gojo, and he has no domain expansion and lowered curse energy in general.
When it comes to comparing Mythical Beast Amber Kashimo to Sukuna, the main problem is that he doesn't really have any offensive feats against Sukuna. He does block attacks like True said, but again, that's defense. When it comes to actually reacting and landing blows on Sukuna, not once does he ever land a single hit on the King of Curses. At least it's implied that he did react to the dismantle that Sukuna threw at him, but then again, Sukuna did flat out tell him right before he launched to dodge it, so he did have kind of like a heads up to dodging that dismantle. When it comes to Mythical Beast Kashimo, it is a big increase compared to his base, as we've seen with his performance against Meguna, but it's not anything on the level of Sukuna, at least when he's in his true form, like many suggest. Regardless of how strong Meguna is in this instance, he's actually a pretty good candidate for us to compare both versions of Kashimo up against, considering his feats are massively different when he ends up going into Mythical Beast Amber compared to when he's in base. Kashimo ends up lunging at Sukuna, to where Sukuna just ends up blocking the staff attack from Kashimo with his sword, and even when Kashimo tries to follow it up with more attacks, Meguna still continues to dodge. Compared to when he's in Mythical Beast Amber, it's completely different. When Kashimo Kashima's in Mythical Beast Amber, immediately he follows up with comboing up Sukuna straight to the face, and even if you want to say that Sukuna's a little bit off guard because he wasn't expecting the massive power increase, it's pretty consistent with the rest of his time fighting against Meguna before he goes into true form. He's able to land a blast on Sukuna, and Sukuna does dodge another one of his attacks later on, but again it's quickly followed up with another strike straight to the face. Keep in mind that everything that I just brought up is all before he uses that sure hit lightning attack that he used against Akari, which is the most lethal thing he's going to have against Maki, which of course is the thing that ends up hitting Meguna and forces him to reassume transformation back into his true form.
Kashimo in this form not only gets this insane boost that we just went over, to where it's like he's not even the same as before or even in the same realm, as he's able to completely destroy Meguna multiple times. He also has multiple abilities that I believe would push Maki over the edge. He has his sound waves which are able to disorient even Sukuna, and he also has the lightning shred effect, to which if he hits Maki enough times, which he probably will due to being on this other level than he was before, it seems like he just has the upper hand in this battle even if Maki has one-shot capabilities. The only thing that really holds Kashimo back is his time limit, but me and Jada both agree that in this time limit that he has, he'll probably be able to kill Maki, and because Maki has no healing or really any fast healing in terms of the midst of battle, it seems like she won't be able to get a win off on this Kashimo.
Even if you believe that both of them to begin with in base are in this around Akari level, and even if you believe that Maki's in the higher end of that around Akari level, when Kashimo goes into Mythical Beast Amber, he's not even around the level of himself anymore. That relativity that he held with Akari, as well as with Maki, even if he's on the lower end of it to begin with, that Kashimo is going to be so far above just judging by his performance against Meguna that he's going to be way out of any of their league.
To wrap it up, we pretty much have base to base, we see Maki winning due to her different fighting style, to where it seems like Kashimo won't be able to get many hits off in order to enact his sure hit lightning effect. But when it comes to Mythical Beast Amber, it seems like even if they were relative before, the massive amp that Mythical Beast Amber gets would just be something far above the level of what he was previously. So it would give him the upper hands in terms of fighting, and he has multiple abilities that would be able to take care of Maki. Because even if you believe she's taking a few lightning attacks from a weaker Kashimo, a stronger Kashimo's lightning attacks would probably be devastating to her, especially because she has little to no healing. But that's all we have for today. Obviously, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like or leave your comments on how you think the fight would go. And also subscribe to Jaded since he was friendly enough to come in this video with me, and subscribe to my channel as well. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, subscribe to Truth, man. I was forced to be here.
Okay, get back in the basement. Goodbye.